Meanwhile, there is news on San Diego State, but what is the news? Pete Thamel, a little bit ago, with a tweet that's saying that San Diego State is basically all but telling the Mountain West Conference that they are going to resign from the conference, but they want the conference to give them a deadline, give them an extension on when they can leave, maybe a couple of weeks or so after what needs to be June 30th, so that their payment won't be $17 million, or won't be $34 million, but maybe $16 or $17 million. So we'll have a writer from the San Diego Tribune, Union Tribune at 5:30, spoke with a couple of people in San Diego, and they're like, man, Craig, it's like, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to be able to leave, but instead of paying the full amount, I want you to give me an extension. We're going to leave, but I want to pay half the price.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what it is. It's a weird deal that clearly didn't go the way that San Diego State officials had planned it to when they originally sent a letter that, yes, was basically asking for an extension past the end of June that would allow them to, I guess, have some time to totally figure out what's going to happen here, and therefore they would not have a double buyout payment that they would have to deliver. It also wouldn't put some of the other money that they've earned from the conference in limbo, and so that's very important. I mean, $34 million versus $17 million, possible millions of dollars that had been earned previously that wouldn't be coming your way. I mean, that's not something that an athletic department in most areas would be able to okay, yeah, y'all have all that, and we're not going to worry. And we'll pay 34 too. Clearly that's not something that they are looking to do or that most schools would be looking to do. So yeah, it sounds as though they were trying to find a way around that and let it be known, like, hey, there's a good chance we're leaving, but we can't just yet. There's some other things to figure out. But if we were to leave, is there any way that we could agree on some things, and make this an easier transition
for us,
basically. But I'm sure they, tried to spin it as it being the best for both parties. And to the Mountain West credit, Mountain West apparently is like, absolutely not. You absolutely are not going to be able to do that. And so they took that original letter that was asking for an extension as though it was an official declaration that they were going to, in fact, be leaving the conference, and they moved on San Diego State as though San Diego State was officially leaving the conference. San Diego State had to say, well, wait a second, we're not official. That letter didn't say that. That letter was just asking questions and suggesting some things, and that wasn't us saying that we are leaving or that it's right now. And the Mountain West, meanwhile, seems like they're kind of adamant about their, stance that, okay, you told us you're leaving and we're going to act as though you are. And San Diego State's now trying to scramble and say, no, not just yet, but very clearly miscalculated here, because whether that original letter was just exploratory or not, they kind of just tipped off their move and let it be known. And so now, instead of it just being an investigation type of email or an exploratory type of email, just asking questions, a little back and forth. Instead, they basically are now being looked at as a team that's about to move and being treated as such.
Yeah, but I don't think they knew that this was going to pop, that this story would get out. Somebody obviously floated this, and it wouldn't be San Diego State. You would think it was probably somebody involved in the Mountain West Conference. Here's a couple of notes from Ross Dellinger. He was on with us yesterday. They're asking again to extend the deadline through July and reduce the exit money. In other words, they want your cake, they want the cake and eat it too. Now, I'm not hammering on San Diego State. They're trying to do what's best for them, like others who have left conferences are as well. Extend the exit fee pay schedule. Mountain West sent them a letter back accepting the withdrawal. And then the source saying it's not a withdrawal, informing the school it will withhold, as you said, Craig, it's this year's distribution. At issue is that June 30th deadline. Otherwise, San Diego State, if they leave after that, will have to pay $34 million. San Diego State then sent a third letter in exchange clarifying the original letter was not an official withdrawal, that it would be like the league to withhold this year's distribution, not withhold it, and also answer 3 questions before June 30th. The Mountain West, will they grant San Diego State's request? I cannot imagine that they would let Both happen. Well, San Diego State wants to leave. That's fine, whenever the date might be, but whatever the date is will affect how much they have to pay. Yes, Oklahoma and Texas thought maybe they could leave earlier, thought they wouldn't have to pay much. They each ended up paying, what was it, $80 million or $100 million apiece. A note from Ross Dellinger. No school receives an invite to a conference until that school joins that conference, just like no coach ever in history of sports receives an offer of a job unless he's accepted the job. So the San Diego State letter, there you go. And does this kickstart something? Maybe it kickstarts San Diego State being in a Power 5 conference very soon, but yet there's even confusion here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit to sort through. Clearly they were just trying to.
Man, we're doing a talk show. I'm sorry. No, we're on TV right now. Okay, I'm sorry.
This
That's
isn't
okay.
an office.
Sorry, it's not
sweet. We where were we here?
Well, we're in the middle of the show. Okay. They're not going to get to eat the cake and the icing at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, and it sounds like they were just doing their due diligence, and they were just trying to, get themselves a little bit of extra buffer room to figure some things out, and, asking for an extension on the deadline, and instead it got all interpreted as though, they were making the move officially, and the Mountain West Conference acted as such, and they obviously were not expecting that. And then had to, wait a second. No, this is what we were trying to say. And so I don't know where it stands now. It stands now where the Mountain West has pretty clearly made their position that they're not going to budge very much on whatever San Diego State's trying to do.
At least for now.
At least for now, nor probably should they. And I appreciate that reaction. So it doesn't sound as though they're going to play ball at the moment. And from the San Diego State point of view, it sounds like they're 1 foot out the door. But the problem is there's nowhere to walk to or to go right now, because you would think this would logically mean that, they're going to the Pac-12. They've got a Pac-12 invitation, and that's all but done, and we've kind of felt that way for a while. But clearly there's still a hang-up in that regard, i.e. a TV deal that is not agreed to just yet. And so I guess without that, confirmation on what exactly that will all look like, you don't officially have an invite to officially asked out of the conference. And so,
because why don't you have an invite?
Because it's not done.
Because the Pac-12 is trying to figure out their own backyard for right now, and really can't get to that point, even if they want San Diego State either way, until they themselves know where they are as a conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly not done. You would think if the TV deal was done and you knew the numbers, and then therefore you knew what you could go and move on, which would be officially inviting San Diego State, for example, and then they could officially run through the numbers and what the deadlines are and what they need to do on their end, and officially accept, and then go through that process, like sending a letter to the Mountain West, letting them know that they're going to be leaving the conference. But this is like they were treating, this is almost like though a trial run or something. Like, let's test out the processes and how these work. Without
this was like the Chinese balloon floating across the country until somebody knocked it down out of the sky?
I guess so, yeah.
Let's see how far we can go.
I don't know that it was really threatening the United States, but I guess just a trial run, and it wasn't received, I guess, the way that they were expecting it to be received. And yes, clearly somebody in the Mountain West was like, all right, because they sent it to all the athletic directors right away. That's how it got out. It got sent to everybody in the conference, because whoever received it at the top of the chain treated it as though it was official. And so they sent it out to everybody in the membership to say, like, hey, just so you know, San Diego State's triggering the withdrawal. And then here we are where they had to scramble and say, no, not just yet. But, yeah, I mean, their intentions have been made clear. It's just a matter of there's nowhere to go right now. And who knows, like, again, the question that has been the only one that's really mattered this entire time, and I reiterate this like every couple of days, but it stands true every single time. Until that TV deal gets done, then there's going to be all these questions, and sure enough, it's clearly not done, and San Diego State's in a little bit of limbo as a result.
If they would have sent this letter to the Mountain West, whatever it said, the Mountain West would have said, no, go ahead, you take your time, and we're only going to charge you half the money. Whoever runs the Mountain West, and the presidents and ADs, they'd have a riot. They would not let that happen. Now, will they eventually pay less? Maybe, just because of the way the law or legal stuff type works. $10 super chat. Judson Crockett, thank you very much. A $5 super chat from Jason, who's a Boise State guy. And it's probably a little bit early, Jacob, excuse me. If San Diego State were to leave and the Mountain West decided to find replacement, what teams would be worthwhile? I haven't even let San Diego State out the door, but there's options. I just don't know which ones they may be. And a lot of it depends on what happens, the strength and stability of the Pac-12, which you would think is going to stay together, perhaps with maybe a defection or two and or an addition or two. San Diego State's name has been mentioned. Fresno, they've been mentioned. They're in the conference. Colorado State is in the conference. So a couple of the options you would think of, they're already in the Mountain West Conference.
Well, and I mean, there's other questions too. I mean, there's domino effect. So if there's anything to the SMU thing, which there's been no smoke around that for like a month now, I mean, that really has dried up. And there's the whole thing with, the allegation, or not allegation seems like really strong, but the suggestions that SMU like tipped off Kliavkoff being there to visit their game, that was a thing here recently, and just their positioning in the whole pecking order, or how desirable they are, how much of an automatic layup they are for the Pac-12. It doesn't sound as though that's a foregone conclusion or automatic the same way as San Diego State does. So why does that matter? Well, because that's another domino. Like if they were to leave, well, then that's another conference that then has to look for another team, and then then there's more in play. So yeah, to say like who would replace San Diego State, I think there's just a lot of unanswered questions right now, including like the fact that they haven't gone anywhere yet, and that's more something I guess to look at once we get a bit more answers and clarity on this side of the equation.
There's other schools that you can look at that are not a part of the Mountain West. Some of you are mentioning like New Mexico, UTSA, UTEP, whoever. I can't even wrap my arms around
UTSA
that in my head.
Just got to the American.
Yeah, they just arrived at the American. Yeah. All right, so there we are with that. So Adam McDonald,